Taehyun walked into the great meeting hall with heavy steps. His blue skin looked pale under the bright lights. As the speaker for the Zalarian Empire, he had seen many crisis meetings before, but this one felt different. This one made his stomach twist with worry. The hall was huge. 12 different species sat in their special chairs around a giant circle. Each group looked scared and confused. Some whispered to each other in their strange languages. Others sat in complete silence, staring at the empty seats where humans used to sit. "Friends," Taehyun began, his voice echoing in the big room. "We are here because of something that has never happened before. 3 months ago, every human in the galaxy just left." Murmurs filled the air. Some aliens nodded their heads. Others made clicking sounds with their teeth or tentacles. Everyone knew this was true, but hearing it out loud made it feel more real. Nari, the chief of station security, stood up from her seat. Her green scales caught the light as she moved. "I was there when the last human left," she said. His name was Do-hyun. He worked as our contact person with Earth and the human colonies. She pressed a button on her control pad. A big screen showed security video from 3 months ago. Everyone watched as Do-hyun calmly packed his things into a small bag. He moved slowly like he had all the time in the world. There was no rush, no panic, no fear. "I asked him where he was going," Nari continued. "He just smiled at me and said, 'It's time to go home.' That was it. He walked to his ship and left. Since then we have heard nothing from any human anywhere." The video showed Do-hyun walking down the long hallway to the ship docks. His steps were steady and sure. He looked like a man who knew exactly what he was doing. At the door to his ship, he turned around once and waved at the camera. Then he was gone. Woo-jin, a short alien with 4 arms, jumped up from his chair. His species always got excited about money and trade. "But this is good news," he said, waving all 4 hands in the air. "Now we can take over all their business, their planets, their mines, their trade routes. We can split everything between us." Some of the other aliens made happy sounds. The humans had always been hard to work with. They asked too many questions. They wanted to change too many rules. They never seemed to follow the old ways that had worked for thousands of years. "Yes," said another alien with a long neck and big eyes. "The humans were always causing trouble. They were too loud, too fast, too different. Now we can have peace." Woo-jin pulled out his datapad and started showing numbers and charts. "Look here," he said. The humans controlled 15 major trade routes. They had mining operations on 43 planets. They ran 3 of the biggest manufacturing centers in the galaxy. All of this is empty now. We can take it all. The aliens began talking excitedly among themselves. They started making plans about who would take what. The bird-like Altarians wanted the mining planets. The water-breathing Aquarians wanted the ocean worlds. The rock-eating lithoids wanted the asteroid mines, but So-young sat quietly in the corner looking at her own datapad. She was young for her species, with smooth purple skin and bright silver eyes. She worked as a data analyst, which meant most people ignored her. They thought she was just a number cruncher who didn't understand the big picture, but So-young saw something that worried her. In all the excitement about taking human property, no one was asking the right question. Why did the humans leave? And more importantly, how did they all leave at exactly the same time? She looked at the communication logs from the past 3 months. Every human colony had gone silent on the same day, at almost the same hour. This wasn't random. This wasn't people just deciding to go home. This was planned. "Excuse me," So-young said, standing up. Her voice was quiet, and most of the aliens didn't hear her over their excited planning. "Excuse me," she said louder. The room slowly got quiet. All eyes turned to the young purple alien in the corner. "I think we need to ask why they left," So-young said. This wasn't random. Look at the data. Every human settlement, every ship, every research station went silent within a 6-hour window. You can't organize something like that without planning. Taehyun nodded slowly. He had been thinking the same thing. "What are you saying, So-young?" "I'm saying they were ready for this. They planned this. They took something with them when they left." She pressed buttons on her pad and sent data to the main screen. "Look at this." Every quantum communication relay in human space has been shut down. Not damaged, not destroyed, shut down properly like someone who knew exactly how to turn them off. The excitement in the room began to fade. The aliens looked at the data with growing concern. There's more, So Young continued. They didn't just take their people, they took their knowledge. Every database has been wiped clean. Every research facility has been emptied. Every piece of advanced technology has been removed or destroyed. The room was completely silent now. The aliens stared at the screen, trying to understand what this meant. Nari spoke first. Are you saying they plan to abandon us? I'm saying they plan to leave us, So Young replied. Whether that's the same as abandoning us, I don't know. But they didn't just run away. They carefully removed themselves from our civilization. Wu Jin looked confused. But why? We were partners. We traded with them. We shared technology. Why would they want to leave? No one had an answer. The humans had seemed happy enough. They complained sometimes, sure. They asked for changes to old laws, they pushed for new ways of doing things, but they had never seemed angry enough to just disappear. Tae-hyun looked around the room at all the worried faces. We need to send scout ships to human space. We need to find out what happened to them. Already tried, Nari said. 3 different scout teams have been sent to human colonies. They all report the same thing. Empty cities, clean buildings, everything valuable taken or destroyed. It's like they were never there. The meeting continued for hours, but no one had good answers. The humans were gone, and they had left behind more questions than answers. As the aliens finally began to leave, heading back to their own ships and worlds, none of them noticed the small detail that So Young had spotted but hadn't mentioned yet. In the past 3 months, 17 different star systems had reported strange equipment failures, navigation systems breaking down, power grids developing problems, communication networks getting fuzzy and unreliable. So Young looked at her data one more time before shutting off her pad. All 17 of those systems had one thing in common. They had all depended on human technicians for maintenance and repairs. She had a feeling that this was just the beginning. 6 months had passed since the humans disappeared. Jin Ho sat in his command chair on the bridge of the warship Steel Wind, staring at the reports on his screen. As commander of the Korthak Defense Fleet, he had seen many strange things in space. But nothing like this, sir, his communications officer called out. We're getting another distress signal from the outer rim. Jin Ho sighed. That was the 5th one this week. What is it this time? Pirate attack on Cargo Station 7. They're asking for immediate help. Before the humans left, pirate attacks were rare. The human patrol fleets had kept the space lane safe. Pirates knew that if they attacked a cargo ship, human warships would hunt them down within days. But now the pirates were getting bold. Send. The 3rd Squadron, Jin Ho ordered. Tell them to be careful. These pirates are using better weapons than before. The truth was that the Korthak fleet was stretched too thin. They were trying to patrol space that used to be covered by both Korthak and human ships. With only half the ships doing twice the work, gaps were appearing everywhere. Young-soo, the council's chief scientist, was having his own problems. He stood in his laboratory on Research Station Prime, looking at pieces of twisted metal and burned electronics. His forearms moved quickly as he examined each piece with different tools. This doesn't make sense, he muttered to himself. His species was known for being very smart, especially with technology. But these pieces were a puzzle he couldn't solve. His assistant, a young researcher named Kyung-soo, looked up from his own work table. What doesn't make sense, sir? These debris fields that are blocking the shipping lanes. Everyone thinks they're just random space junk, but look at this. Young-soo held up a piece of twisted metal. This is advanced armor plating, military grade. And this, he pointed to another piece, is part of a quantum processor. Very expensive, very advanced. Kyung-soo moved closer to look. Where did it come from? That's what I'm trying to figure out. The debris appeared in 3 different star systems at the same time. Each field blocks a major trade route, and each field contains pieces of the same type of technology. Young-soo activated a holographic display that showed the locations of all the debris fields. Look at the pattern. These aren't random locations. Someone put these obstacles exactly where they would cause the most problems for shipping. Pirates? Kyung-soo suggested. No, pirates want to steal cargo, not stop it completely. This is something else. Young-soo picked up another piece of debris. I think these used to be defense platforms, automated systems that watched over the shipping lanes. Someone built them and then someone destroyed them. But who would build secret defense platforms? Young-soo didn't answer. He had a suspicion, but he didn't want to say it out loud. The debris showed signs of human technology, but humans had always shared their military designs with the Council. They had never hidden anything before. Meanwhile, on the peaceful world of Valara Prime, diplomat Ari was reading reports that made her stomach hurt. Her species had never fought wars. They solved problems by talking, not fighting. But the reports, coming from the frontier worlds, were scary. Minister, her aide Dongwon said as he entered her office. We have 3 more requests for emergency aid. Ari looked at the list. Colton D4 has lost power to their capital city. Sirion 7 can't clean their air anymore, and New Haven's food production systems have broken down. Yes, ma'am. They're all asking for technical support teams. But we don't have technical support teams, Ari said sadly. Our people are farmers and artists and teachers. We don't know how to fix power plants or air cleaners. This was the problem. Each species in the Council was good at different things. The Valerians were good at growing food and making peace. The Altarians were good at flying and exploring. The Lithoids were good at mining and building. But none of them were good at everything. The humans had been different. They seemed to know a little bit about everything. When there was a problem, human technicians could usually fix it. When there was a fight, human diplomats could usually stop it. When there was a mystery, human scientists could usually solve it. Now they were gone and no one else could do their jobs. Dongmin, the Council's military strategist, was discovering this truth in a very direct way. He sat in the war room, looking at a map of the galaxy that was covered in red warning lights. How many conflicts are we tracking now? He asked his staff. 14 separate incidents, sir, replied his aide Minsu. 3 are actual shooting wars. The rest are diplomatic crises that could become wars. Dongmin rubbed his tired eyes. His species didn't need much sleep, but he had been working for days without rest. What's the status on the Theta Sector dispute? The Zephyrians and the Altarians are still arguing over mining rights. Both sides have moved warships to the border. They're demanding that the Council choose a side. And the Kappa system problem? The Lithoids are angry because someone has been stealing from their asteroid mines. They think it's the Aquarians. The Aquarians say they're innocent. Both sides are threatening to stop all trade with each other. Dongmin looked at the map. Each red light represented a problem that could grow into something bigger. In the old days, he would have called the Human Diplomatic Corps. They had a way of talking to everyone that made sense. They could find solutions that made all sides happy enough to stop fighting. But the humans were gone. And without them, old anger and old fears were coming back to life. Sir, Minsu said quietly, there's something else. We've been analyzing the recent conflicts. Most of them started because of infrastructure problems. What do you mean? The Theta Sector dispute began when both sides' communication systems started giving wrong information. They couldn't talk to each other clearly, so they started assuming the worst. The Kappa system thefts began when the security monitoring network went down. No one could see who was actually stealing the asteroids. Dongmin felt a cold feeling in his stomach. Are you saying these conflicts are happening because our technology is breaking down? It looks that way, sir. Small problems with computers and networks are growing into big problems between species. On Deep Horizon Research Station, Ha-Woon was making the same discovery. She was one of the few non-humans who had worked closely with human scientists. Her species was good at understanding complex patterns, which made her useful for research projects. But now she was looking at patterns that scared her. Computer, show me the maintenance records for the past year, she said. The station's computer displayed a long list of repair work and system updates. Ha-Yoon studied the list carefully. Almost every major repair had been done by human technicians. Almost every system upgrade had been designed by human engineers. Computer, show me maintenance records for the past 3 months. The new list was much shorter. Very few repairs, very few updates, and none of them done by humans. Computer, show me current system status. The display showed red warning lights across half the station's systems. Life support was working, but running at 60% efficiency. The food production systems were breaking down. The waste recycling was backed up. The gravity generators were making strange noises. Ha-Yun realized that Deep Horizon was slowly dying. Without human maintenance, the station was falling apart piece by piece. She activated the communication system and sent a message to the council. This is Ha-Yun on Deep Horizon. I need to speak to the emergency council immediately. I have information about the human departure that everyone needs to hear. When the emergency meeting was called, Ha-Yun shared her discovery with the other council members. The humans hadn't just been participants in galactic civilization, they had been essential to it. For over 200 years, Ha-Yun explained, humans have been quietly maintaining critical systems across the galaxy, not just on their own worlds, but on everyone's worlds. They never asked for credit. They never demanded payment. They just helped. Tae-hyun listened with growing understanding. Are you saying we were dependent on them? I'm saying we still are. The only difference is that now they're not here to help us anymore. The council members sat in worried silence. They had thought the humans were just another species in the galactic community. They had never realized that the humans were holding that community together. So Young, who had been quietly taking notes, finally spoke up. If this is true, then we have a much bigger problem than we thought. It's not just about empty human colonies or missing trade partners. Our entire civilization is built on foundations that are crumbling. She was right, and things were about to get much worse. 1 year had passed since the humans vanished, and Kyung-ho felt like he was drowning in reports of disaster. As emergency coordinator for the Inner Worlds Alliance, his job was to help member species when bad things happened. But now, bad things were happening everywhere at once. Sir, we have another government collapse, his assistant Hai-Wan said, as she rushed into his office. Her usually neat appearance was messy from working too many hours with too little sleep. Which one this time? Kyung-ho asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know. The hegemony of Krell. Their entire computer network crashed 3 days ago. They can't process food distribution, they can't coordinate their police forces, and they can't even count their own population. The local governors are fighting each other for control. Kyung-ho marked another red X on his wall map. That made 12 member species that had lost their governments in the past 6 months. 12 civilizations that had been stable for centuries, all falling apart at the same time. What about the emergency aid we sent to the Zephyrian Collective? They're grateful for the food supplies, but they say it's not enough. Their agricultural systems are still failing. They estimate they'll run out of food completely within 3 months. And the Altarian Republic? Their president was killed yesterday in a riot. The people are angry because the power grid keeps failing. They blame the government for not fixing it. But the government doesn't know how to fix it either. Kyung-ho sat down heavily in his chair. Each disaster led to 3 more disasters. When governments fell, crime went up. When crime went up, trade stopped. When trade stopped, people got hungry. When people got hungry, they started fighting. Hai-Wan, get me the files on human involvement in Inner Worlds infrastructure. I need to understand exactly what we've lost. Meanwhile, Mi Young was discovering just how much they had lost. As head of the Council's intelligence division, she had access to classified information that most people never saw. What she was seeing now made her wish she had never looked. Computer, show me all classified files related to human diplomatic activities, she said to her secure terminal. The screen filled with thousands of documents, reports of secret meetings, private negotiations, and behind-the-scenes deals. As Mi Young read through them, a picture began to form that shocked her. The humans hadn't just been one species among many in the galactic community. They had been the glue that held the community together. For over 2 centuries, human diplomats had been quietly preventing wars, solving disputes, and managing conflicts that could have destroyed entire civilizations. Computer, Show me the file on the Xerion border crisis. The document that appeared told the story of a conflict between the Altarians and the Lithoids that could have started a galactic war. Both species had claimed the same star system. Both had sent warships. Both had been ready to fight. But human diplomat Jin Su had spent 3 months flying back and forth between the two fleets, carrying messages and proposals. He had found a solution that let both species share the system peacefully. The Altarians got the gas giant planets for fuel collection. The Lithoids got the asteroid belt for mining. Everyone was happy. Computer, show me the file on the Great Plague of 2387. Another document appeared. A deadly disease had started spreading through the Aquarian homeworlds. The Aquarians had panicked and closed their borders, refusing to let anyone in or out. This had stopped all trade through their space, which had started causing food shortages on dozens of other worlds. Human doctors and scientists had worked for months to find a cure. They had shared their research freely with Aquarian scientists. When they finally stopped the plague, they had refused any payment or reward. They had said that helping others was payment enough. Mi Young spent hours reading file after file. Each one told the same story. Humans helping, humans solving problems, humans preventing disasters. Always quietly, always without asking for credit. Computer, create a summary report. How many major diplomatic crises have been resolved through human intervention in the past 50 years? The answer appeared immediately. 147 major diplomatic crises. Estimated conflict prevention. 32 wars avoided. Approximately 400 million lives saved. Mi Young stared at the screen. The humans had prevented 32 wars. Wars that would have killed hundreds of millions of people. And they had done it so quietly that most people had never even known the wars were possible. Across the galaxy, Sungmin was discovering the economic side of humanity's importance. As a trade minister for the Zephyrian Confederacy, he had always known that humans were good at business, but he was just now learning how good. Show me our trade data from before the human departure, he told his economic advisor. Sir, you've seen this data many times. Show me again. I want to understand something. The holographic display showed trade routes connecting hundreds of worlds. Complex networks of cargo ships carrying goods from one species to another. It looked like a spider web made of light, stretching across the galaxy. Now show me our current trade data. The new display looked completely different. The spider web was broken. Many of the light lines had disappeared. Whole sections of the galaxy were now isolated from each other. I don't understand, Sung Min said. Why has trade dropped so much? We're still the same species with the same needs. His advisor, a young economist named Bo Young, pulled up another display. Sir, the problem isn't demand. People still want to buy and sell goods. The problem is logistics. Logistics? Moving goods from one place to another. The humans had the best navigation computers in the galaxy. Their ships could find the fastest, safest routes through space. Their cargo systems could handle any type of goods. Their scheduling networks could coordinate thousands of shipments at once. Sungmin began to understand. And now? Now we're trying to use our own navigation systems, our own cargo ships, our own scheduling networks. But they're not as good. Our ships get lost more often. Our cargo systems break down more often. Our schedules get confused more often. How much more often? Bo Young looked uncomfortable. Cargo delivery times have increased by 300%. Shipping costs have gone up by 250%, and about 15% of all shipments are getting completely lost. Sungmin felt sick. The Zephyrian economy was built on trade. If trade collapsed, his entire civilization would collapse with it. There's more, sir, Bo Young continued. We've been depending on human-built systems for so long that we've forgotten how to build our own. Our engineers don't know how to make navigation computers as good as the human ones. Our shipbuilders don't know how to make cargo systems as efficient as the human ones. This was the problem that He Jin was trying to solve. As the Council's last remaining human expert, she was probably the only person in the galaxy who truly understood how much the other species had depended on humanity. He Jin was half human, half Altarian. She had been raised by the Altarian Consortium after her human father and Altarian mother died in an accident. Most people saw her as just another Altarian, but she had spent years studying human culture and technology. The withdrawal wasn't sudden, she explained to an emergency session of the council. I've been going through human databases and communication records. The humans started preparing for this departure decades ago. Tae-hyun, still serving as the council's speaker, looked confused. What do you mean, preparing? They began training replacements for their technicians and engineers. They started building backup systems for critical infrastructure. They wrote detailed instruction manuals for maintaining their technology. They were trying to prepare us for their absence. Why didn't we notice? Yijin smiled sadly. Because we were too proud to pay attention. Every time a human offered to train one of our people, we thought they were being condescending. Every time they built backup systems, we thought they were wasting resources. Every time they wrote instruction manuals, we thought they were treating us like children. So Young, who had been studying the data patterns for months, added her own observations. The humans tried to make us independent, but we refused to become independent. We preferred to let them handle the difficult problems while we focused on our own interests. Are you saying this is our fault? Asked Jin Ho, who was attending the meeting virtually from his flagship. I'm saying the humans gave us every chance. To learn how to take care of ourselves, we chose not to learn. Jae-sung, commander of what remained of the Council Defense Force, brought even worse news. I've been monitoring military activity across the galaxy. 3 different species are preparing for war against each other. The Korthak Empire blames the Altarian Republic for their recent supply shortages. The Altarian Republic blames the Zephyrian Confederacy for their communication failures. The Zephyrian Confederacy blames the Korthak Empire for their shipping problems. But none of those problems are caused by enemy action, Hyejin protested. They're all caused by infrastructure failures. I know that, and you know that, Jae-sung replied. But the governments don't know that. They see their people suffering, and they need someone to blame. It's easier to blame an enemy than to admit that they don't know how to fix their own problems. The meeting continued for hours, but the conclusion was unavoidable. The galaxy was falling apart, without the humans to hold it together. 2 years after the humans disappeared, Seok-jin stood in what used to be the Grand Council chamber. Now only 5 species still had representatives. The beautiful hall that once held 12 different alien delegations felt empty and sad. As the new emergency chancellor, Seok-jin had to make decisions that no leader should ever have to make. We have to try to contact them, he announced to the small group of remaining council members. Our civilizations are dying. If the humans have answers, we need to swallow our pride and ask for help. The other representatives looked tired and defeated. 2 years of constant crisis had worn them all down. Their proud species, who had once ruled star systems and commanded vast fleets, were now struggling just to keep their people fed and their cities powered. How do we contact people who don't want to be found? Asked Maljin, the representative from the Altarian Republic. His feathers, once bright and colorful, had turned dull gray from stress. We send search expeditions to their old colonies, Seok-jin replied. We look for clues about where they went. We follow any trail we can find. This was why Yeonju found herself commanding the exploration ship Starseeker as it traveled through what used to be human space. As one of the best pilots in the galaxy, she had been chosen to lead the most important search mission in galactic history. Captain, her navigator Daeho called out from his station. I'm detecting something strange in the Kepler sector. What kind of strange? Large-scale construction, multiple sites. But the energy signatures don't match any known technology. Yeonju felt her heart speed up. This was the first sign of activity they had found in months of searching through empty, human worlds. Set course for the nearest construction site, maximum speed. When the Starseeker arrived at the coordinates, the crew stared in amazement at what they saw through the main view screen. Massive structures were being built in the empty space between planets. They were unlike anything in the databases of any known species. Are those human? Asked the science officer, Junwoo. They have to be, Yeonju replied. But I've never seen human technology like this before. The structures looked like enormous rings made of some kind of crystal and metal that seemed to bend light around itself. They were beautiful and terrifying. At the same time, each ring was several kilometers across, and there were dozens of them scattered throughout the star system. "Captain, I'm detecting automated construction ships," Deho reported. "They're building more structures, but there are no crew aboard any of them." "Can we communicate with the construction ships?" "I've tried every frequency we know. No response." Yeonju made a decision that would change everything. "Take us closer. I want to see what they're building." Meanwhile, back on the council station, Daewon was making discoveries of his own. As the galaxy's leading expert on ancient civilizations, he had been asked to study old human databases for clues about their departure. "Computer, search all human historical records for references to large-scale population movements," he commanded. "Search complete. 247 references found. Display the most recent references." What appeared on his screen made Daewon's eyes grow wide. The humans had been studying something called transcendence protocols for over 50 years. The documents described theoretical methods for moving entire civilizations beyond normal physical space. "Computer, search for references to dimensional research in human scientific databases." Search complete. 15,192 references found. Daewon spent the next several hours reading through research papers that hurt his brain to understand. The humans had been studying advanced physics that was far beyond what any other species had achieved. They had been working on ways to exist in more than 3 dimensions. "Computer, when did human dimensional research begin?" Earliest reference found, 2156 CE. Research appears to have accelerated significantly beginning in 2380 CE. Daewon did the calculation quickly. 2380 was exactly when humans had first joined the Galactic Council. They had started their most advanced research projects right after meeting the other species. "Computer, search for any references to the Galactic Council in human research databases." The files that appeared told an incredible story. The humans had joined the Council not to become part of galactic civilization, but to study it. They had spent 2 centuries learning everything they could about alien technology, culture, and society, and then they had used that knowledge to evolve beyond what any of the other species thought was possible. Boram was discovering this truth from a different angle. As one of the few aliens who had worked closely with human researchers, she had always known that humans were curious about everything, but she was just now understanding what they had been curious about. "I helped them with their first contact protocols," she explained to an emergency intelligence briefing. "When humans first met other species, they wanted to know everything about us. Our languages, our cultures, our technologies, our philosophies. I thought they were just being friendly." "What do you think now?" asked Mi Young, who was still leading the intelligence division. "I think they were studying us, learning from us, taking the best ideas from every species and combining them into something new." Boram activated a holographic display that showed a timeline of human development since first contact. "Look at this pattern. Every major human breakthrough happened shortly after they gained access to new alien technology or knowledge." The display showed how humans had improved their faster-than-light travel after studying Altarian propulsion systems, how they had revolutionized their computers after learning Zephyrian logic algorithms, how they had advanced their materials science after trading with the lithoids. "They weren't just trading with us," Boram continued. "They were learning from us. And they were always planning to use what they learned to go beyond what any of us had achieved." This revelation reached Taiwan just as he was making the most important discovery of the search mission. His expedition to the Outer Rim had found something that changed everything they thought they knew about the human departure. "Council Command. This is Taiwan." He transmitted from his research ship, Deep Explorer. "I've found something you need to see immediately." "What have you found, Taiwan?" came Seok Jin's voice through the communication system. A message, hidden in quantum encryption so complex that it took our computers 2 years to decode it. "It's from the humans. They left it for us to find." The transmission quality was poor across the vast distance, but Taiwan's words came through clearly. "The message is simple, but I think it explains everything. It says, Thank you for teaching us what we needed to learn. We're sorry you weren't ready to learn from us." Silence filled the communication channel as the implications sank in. "There's more," Taewon continued. "I've found evidence of massive construction projects throughout this entire region. The humans didn't just leave our space. They built something here, something that would let them exist in dimensions we can't even perceive." Back on Yeonju's ship, the crew was seeing this evidence firsthand. The crystal and metal rings they had discovered were not just construction projects. They were gateways, doorways to somewhere else. "Captain," Junwoo called out excitedly, "I'm detecting energy patterns that don't follow normal physics. These structures are creating stable dimensional rifts." "What does that mean?" "It means the humans found a way to step outside of our reality. They're not hiding in some distant galaxy. They've moved to a completely different level of existence." Yeonju stared at the beautiful, impossible structures floating in space. "Are you saying they evolved? Like, became something more than physical beings?" "I'm saying they learned how to exist in more dimensions than we can even imagine. From their perspective, we're probably like drawings on a piece of paper. Flat, limited, unable to see the bigger picture." The realization hit everyone at the same time. The humans hadn't abandoned the galaxy. They had graduated from it. They had learned everything they could from the other species, and then they had used that knowledge to become something entirely new. "But why didn't they take us with them?" asked Daeho. Junwoo was quiet for a long moment before answering. "Maybe because we weren't ready. Maybe because we had to learn the same lessons they learned before we could follow them." As the search expeditions reported their findings back to the Council, the remaining species began to understand the truth. The humans had never been trying to dominate or control galactic civilization. They had been trying to learn from it. And when they had learned everything they could, they had moved on to the next stage of their development. The question now was whether the other species could do the same. Could they learn to work together without human guidance? Could they solve their problems without human help? Could they eventually follow the path that humanity had taken to transcendence? Or would they continue to fight and blame each other until their civilizations collapsed completely? The humans had given them a choice, but the choice was entirely up to them. As Seokjin read the reports from the search expeditions, he realized that finding the humans was no longer the goal. The goal was becoming worthy of finding them. The humans had left behind a test, hidden in the ruins of galactic civilization. The test was simple. Could the remaining species learn to take care of each other the way the humans? 5 years had passed since humanity's departure, and Minwoo stood alone in the rebuilt council chamber. As the sole leader of what was now called the Reformed Council, he governed only 3 surviving species. The other alien civilizations had either collapsed completely or retreated into isolation on their home worlds. But things were different now. The surviving species had learned to work together out of pure necessity. When your choice is cooperation or death, most people choose cooperation. "Sir," his aide Jung-soo said as he entered the chamber, "the archive team has made another breakthrough." Minwoo felt a familiar mixture of hope and fear. The archive was humanity's final gift to the galaxy, a massive digital library containing solutions to every problem the remaining species faced. But it was locked behind puzzles and challenges that required the same wisdom and cooperation that humans had tried to teach for centuries. What did they find this time? Section 7 has been unlocked. It contains blueprints for advanced medical technology, the kind that could cure diseases we thought were impossible to treat. Minwoo nodded. Each section of the archive that they managed to open contained incredible knowledge, but accessing that knowledge required multiple species working together, sharing their unique abilities and perspectives. The humans had designed it that way on purpose. Ji-eun, the galaxy's last student of human philosophy, was the one who had figured out the archive's true purpose. She sat in her small office on Research Station Hope, surrounded by books and data crystals containing everything humans had ever written about cooperation, wisdom, and peace. "It's not just a library," she had explained to the council months earlier. "It's a final exam. The humans are testing us to see if we learned anything from watching their civilization. What kind of test? Minwoo had asked. Every puzzle in the archive requires skills from multiple species. You need Altarian navigation abilities combined with Zephyrian logic combined with lithoid engineering. No single species can unlock the archive alone. You have to work together. This was exactly what Hyun-Soo, Sun-hee, and Chang-ho had discovered when they formed the first successful mixed-species research team. Hyun-Soo was Altarian, with natural abilities in three-dimensional thinking and spatial awareness. Sun-hee was Zephyrian, brilliant at logical analysis and pattern recognition. Chang-ho was lithoid, gifted at understanding how complex systems fit together. Working separately, each of them had failed to solve even the simplest archive puzzles, but working together, they had unlocked 12 different sections in just 2 years. The key, Sun-hee explained during one of their research sessions, is that each species sees the puzzle from a different angle. What looks impossible to me makes perfect sense to Hyun-Soo. What confuses Chang-ho is obvious to me. It's like the humans knew exactly what our strengths and weaknesses were, Chang-ho added. They designed these puzzles to force us to depend on each other. The knowledge they found in the archive wasn't just technological. Section 3 contained detailed studies of social organization and government. Section 5 had revolutionary approaches to conflict resolution. Section 8 contained philosophical frameworks for building truly peaceful societies. The humans weren't just more advanced than us, Hyun-Soo realized as they studied the philosophical texts. They were more mature. They had learned how to be wise, not just smart. Hyun-Soo, the galaxy's youngest diplomat at barely 25 years old, was part of the generation that had grown up after humanity's departure. She had never known a galaxy where humans solved everyone's problems. To her, cooperation between species wasn't unusual. It was the only way things had ever worked. I don't understand why the older generations found it so hard to work together, she said during a council meeting. Every problem I've ever seen required help from multiple species to solve. Her innocence was actually wisdom. Hyun-Soo saw cooperation as natural because she had never experienced the luxury of depending on someone else to handle all the difficult problems. Maybe that's the point, Minwoo replied. Maybe the humans left so that our young people would grow up learning to depend on each other instead of depending on them. This insight led to the most important discovery yet. As the mixed species teams continued working on the archive, they began to notice that each successful puzzle unlocked more than just information. It also unlocked the next generation of puzzles, which were even more complex and required even deeper cooperation. It's like a training program, Ji-eun explained. Each level teaches us to work together more effectively. The humans are gradually training us to become the kind of people who could handle their level of responsibility. The breakthrough came when young researcher Sang-ho managed to unlock what appeared to be a personal message buried deep in the archive's core systems. Unlike the other sections, this one wasn't locked behind puzzles. It was simply waiting for someone to look in the right place. The message was a video recording of an elderly human woman sitting in what looked like a comfortable home. She had kind eyes and graying hair, and she spoke directly to the camera as if she was talking to old friends. "If you're watching this," she said, "it means you've learned to work together well enough to find it. My name is Sarah Kim, and I was part of the team that designed this archive system." The gathered alien researchers watched in fascination as the first human they had seen in 5 years continued speaking. "We know you're probably angry with us for leaving. We know it caused terrible problems. We're sorry for that, but it was necessary. You see, we tried for 200 years to teach you what we had learned about cooperation and wisdom. But as long as we were there to solve your problems, you never had to learn to solve them yourselves." The human woman smiled sadly. "It's like a parent trying to teach a child to walk. As long as the parent keeps carrying the child never learns to use their own legs. Eventually, the parent has to step back and let the child try on their own. But we didn't abandon you. We left you everything you need to build the kind of civilization we always hoped you could become. This archive contains the accumulated wisdom of human civilization, but more importantly, the process of unlocking it teaches you the skills you need to use that wisdom properly. The message continued for several more minutes, explaining how the archive system worked and why it had been designed the way it was. But the final words were what everyone remembered. When you're ready to join us among the stars, you'll know how to find us. We'll be waiting. Until then, take care of each other. The universe is vast enough for all of us to grow. The video ended, leaving the researchers in stunned silence. They're still alive, whispered Sunhee. They're out there somewhere waiting for us. But how do we find them? Asked Chung Ho-jiun, had been studying human philosophy long enough to understand. We don't find them. We become worthy of them finding us. Over the following months, the remaining species threw themselves into unlocking the archive with new purpose. Each section they opened revealed more of humanity's accumulated wisdom. They learned about sustainable technology that didn't damage planets. They discovered methods of government that prevented corruption and conflict. They found economic systems that ensured everyone had enough without anyone having too much. But most importantly, they learned about themselves. Working together on the archive puzzles had taught them to value each other's differences instead of fearing them. They had learned that diversity made them stronger, not weaker. Sang-hoon was only 12 years old, born 3 years after humanity's departure. To him, the galaxy had always been a place where different species worked together to solve problems. He had grown up watching Altarians, Zephyrians, and Lithoids collaborate as naturally as breathing. When he successfully unlocked the final section of the archive, everyone knew that something important had changed. The message that appeared wasn't text or video. It was a set of coordinates and a simple invitation. Come home. The coordinates led to a location in deep space where no star system existed. But when the Reformed Council sent a small exploration ship to investigate, they found something amazing. A doorway. A portal made of the same crystal and metal rings that earlier expeditions had discovered. The portal was inactive, but the archive had provided complete instructions for activating it. The process required technological contributions from all 3 surviving species, working in perfect harmony. It's the final test, Minwoo realized. They want to make sure we can work together before they let us join them. The activation took months of preparation. Altarian pilots had to navigate through complex space-time calculations. Zephyrian computers had to process quantum algorithms that would have been impossible for any other species. Lithoid engineers had to build focusing crystals that could channel the enormous energies required. When the portal finally activated, it opened onto a view of space that was both familiar and impossible. Through the doorway, they could see a galaxy much like their own, but somehow more. The stars burned brighter, the colors were richer. Everything looked more real than reality. And floating near the portal entrance was a single human ship. The ship's communication system activated, and a familiar voice filled the command center. It was Do-hyun, the last human they had seen 5 years earlier.